Do you believe characters drive plot?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, or is it the other way around? Sounds like you're very,
Yes,
know for sure.
it's imperative. They obviously go hand in hand, but if you don't have, again, that intriguing character that we're going to root for and we care about, then it just is going to fall apart for you in your story. That's just, again, my opinion. It's interesting because I feel like there have been, some movies and shows made recently, and they go for this, anti-hero. And, again, if done, we were talking earlier, one of my favorite shows of all time is Californication. And, you have this anti-hero who is, he's a rogue. He's this charming rogue, and he is so self-destructive, and he just, gets in his own way all the time. But he's got heart, and he loves his daughter, and he's in love with his estranged girlfriend. And he, as infuriating as he can be, he still keeps us watching because, again, we do want to see what he's going to do next because he's capable of anything. But that we really do care about him, not just because he's hilarious, he's funny, and he's wizard with words. He's a writer in the series, but he's just, there's something just that we care about him at the end of it all through those 7 seasons. And I feel like, at times lately I've watched some shows, and again, it's just my opinions, that I feel like I'm not, really on the side of any. I'm not really rooting for anyone. And I know the audience wants people to root for. So if you don't have that character developed in a way that you're going to really have, and again, not all stories the character needs an arc. Things do happen to them. But I feel like at the end of it all, we do want to see something happen to our character, him or her, that changes them. And that we really, even if they start at the place where they're, a loathsome character, by the end, we want to see them redeemed in some way. I think that's just our natural inclination, as humans. I think we do love a good, in a way, not, a redemption story, but seeing a character or characters redeemed. So yeah, I feel like the most important thing you can do is, again, as I referenced earlier, having those beats. Those beats are for your character. What are the changes to your character? Yes, it obviously goes hand in hand with the plot. But how is your character being changed by this story, and how are they subsequently changing the story? I think every beat really does hinge on their decisions and what they're choosing to do in the story, without a doubt.
You said earlier you really like to have the pacing
Yeah.
good and to really push the story along.
Yeah.
Has it ever happened where someone's looked at your script and said, you know what, the character's changing too soon, slow it down, or vice versa?
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely that over the years where I've probably gotten that note. It has happened. I don't recall on which particular script, but it has happened for sure. And I think it's easy, especially in early drafts, when you write an earlier draft and you're wanting to get it down, you've plotted it, you have it set, you have the story set, you have your turns. They're hard turns. People have looked at it, they're like, this is a really good outline, time to go write. Where it sometimes doesn't always translate to, the character may start developing a little too soon. I think if that's the case, then you kind of have to go back to the outline and just, that's why having good structure is important, is going back to the outline and using it as a reference, saying, okay, here's where I need that character to change, and et cetera. So yeah, I do think it's, it's one of those things where, yeah, there are a lot of times that, again, in earlier drafts, where you may be having a character evolve too soon rather than giving them her a letting it gestate a little bit more.
Zach, what if the outline fails you? What if you outline and then you get to the screenplay and then it doesn't work?
Great question. I think that it's sort of, one of those things where I'll say this. It's important. I've been part of many writers groups over the years, and I've recently been part of another one for the last couple of years. I feel like if you have a good, if you have a writers group in place that can really help you see certain things, fellow writers, I should say, that sometimes can really help. And can steer and I always feel like those sessions that I have with them provide invaluable feedback. I don't always use all of it, but sometimes I've walked away with like, that's a great idea. More to the point about whether an outline fails and the script doesn't work. I fortunately have, especially in my later scripts, have always really worked the outline so that I feel like it's pretty solid. But I would say that, again, going back to what I referenced earlier, if you feel that you've done the outline, you've done the due diligence on that, and you've done the script and it's not working, I would say go back and re-examine. I think you have to ask yourself, why is this failing? Like, where is it landing flat? Why is it not? Because there's a lot of different, areas where you could be coming up short, I'm sure, but I think it's fair to ask yourself, okay, where is this coming up short? You may not have to throw it all out, but going back to the outline and seeing, okay, maybe re-examining the outline and then taking it and reworking the script again based on that new outline. Or again, it just may be one of those things where the story just isn't materializing and you, again, just maybe need to put that away for now and move on to another idea, another story. But again, my advice would be really, again, with the outline, to really work it well, to have your key beats down, and to get feedback. I think it's really important to also get feedback from other writers, and people will give you a fair hearing. I don't think you should. Well, I don't think you should be going to your mom to get her, because your mom or your dad or Aunt Sue and Uncle Johnny are going to love it no matter what. They're there to champion you and root you on. I also don't think it's great to go to somebody who you may know is who's especially or unduly harsh. I feel like you want people who can be fair and with their constructive criticism and say, okay, this is good, but this doesn't work. I think I knew a few people in college, and again, we were just starting out, who would just rip his or her fellow students apart. It was just, I was like, what is wrong with you? So I think you have to encourage that. You always have to give encouragement, but I think you could do it in a fair and critical way, but I don't think you have to rip the person apart personally. So I think it's finding that good balance and finding a good group of people whom you trust, who will give you fair and critical feedback. And, from there, I think, then it's about determining the direction you want to go in. Do you go back and rework it? Or do you just say, you know what, I'm going to shelve this for now and move on? And I've known plenty of people who have done both. And again, look, I've started outlines and I've gotten them out to people, and I haven't written a word. And this happened in the last few years. I wrote a number of outlines and I gave them to people who I was, I value their opinion. And they said, you know what? This character just isn't likable, or this plot just isn't, this just isn't working. Mostly had to do with the character. These characters are just highly unlikable, and I don't see you really, making it, making this as a film that anyone's, really going to get, have any empathy for. Anyone that this was one script in mind that comes to mind. And another outline where it was just like, yeah, but it just, certain elements just seemed to be too much of a stretch. So I know for me, it's like if that outline isn't working and I'm getting feedback and it's not coming in, and there are people who I trust who are really giving me, I feel they're a fair assessment. And I was like, okay, well, I think maybe it's just better I move on, and maybe later on I'll come back to this, but this just doesn't seem to be hitting the notes that I wanted to.